Across the fence, we'll meet a Vermont man with a new spin on the spinning wheel. His modern design is a story of tradition and love. And UVM's Fleming Museum is hosting a unique exhibition that is curated by students. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. The Fleming Museum at UVM houses Vermont's most comprehensive collection of art and anthropological artifacts. Throughout the year, the museum presents contemporary and historic art from around the world. One of the current exhibits at the Fleming is inspired and put together by students. The exhibit examines how everyday and ceremonial artifacts can shape our perspectives on gender and sexuality, making us either conform to or rebel against dominant societal standards. Keith Silva visited the exhibit and spoke with the student curators to learn more.
A lot of my friends will be like, oh, sex objects. I'm like, not what you think.
The image that greets visitors to the East Gallery of UVM's Fleming Museum says it all. Let's have a talk about sex.
Every object you see has something to share about sex and gender and sexuality, about human relationships. And so tea sets, wedding dresses, Amazonian headdresses are all ways that people and cultures have learned about gender, have expressed gender, and have expressed sexuality.
Okay, there are a few reclining nudes, some lacy unmentionables, and a couple of chaste statues of randy Greek gods and goddesses. So there's that. What Sex Objects really aims to engage is the largest sex organ, the brain.
We wanted the public to come in, look at the objects, yes, read the labels, but also to look at the objects in new ways, because we are doing things like comparing different cultures or presenting them in ways that maybe people haven't thought about them before.
I felt very smart because I could point out this Narcissa at the fountain.
Yeah.
This exhibition was curated by the Fleming staff and 40 students in 2 University of Vermont classes, anthropology and art history. Anna White majors in anthropology and linguistics.
People can really walk through and identify with these pieces, and I've noticed that a lot when people will walk through and kind of be stuck on a piece, and they'll look at something and then not really be able to leave right away, and like keep looking at it. And I mean, I can't read their mind, but I can only imagine that they're drawing some kind of connection and seeing it in a different way than maybe somebody else would see it.
White's favorite piece is one that's up for interpretation, a silkscreen print by Red Grooms entitled Mango Mango. People
had conflicting ideas as to whether or not it was like a mutual act of desire or like a predatory act of danger. Like is the woman and the man mutually doing this? I think that they totally are, and I think it's super fun, and they're just really into the dance. Somebody pointed out that the woman's holding a cigarette, and if she was not into it, she probably wouldn't be holding it the way that she is. I really like the piece just because it's fun and up to the viewer's interpretation in a way that a lot of the other pieces aren't. But this one, you can kind of look at it and form an opinion and talk about it with people you're with.
So what I really want to know is, are you interested in still doing museum work after working on this exhibition?
Yes, definitely. And
For Tammy Alonis, working with students like White puts the Fleming Museum's mission into perspective.
I think giving students access to our collections is really, really important. I consider that an important part of the work that I do every day. I also consider that one of the most inspiring parts of the work that I do every day, because when I'm working with students, when any of us are working with students, those students bring fresh eyes to the collection, they bring fresh perspectives, and exhibitions, classes and then exhibitions, are ways for students to share those new perspectives. And the students from both of these classes worked closely with objects every week, researching them, working with them, measuring them, describing them, drawing them, and giving them access to that is really special.
If you're ready to think sexy thoughts, then Sex Objects is for you. Just be sure to bring that big, beautiful brain of yours along. At UVM's Fleming Museum, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
The current exhibit and several others are on display at the Fleming Museum throughout the month of May. Our next segment takes us to Albany, Vermont. It's a story that involves quality wood products, fine craftsmanship, and Vermont ingenuity. Retired UVM Extension farm specialist Chet Parsons introduces us to a whole new spin on the spinning wheel.
Ruth Ann Little loves to spin, all day if she can.
Time has no meaning when you're doing an activity like this.
Little is a member of Mountain Fiber Folks, a cooperative located in Montgomery Center providing high-quality natural fiber products.
You're starting with very raw materials, and you're going through the whole process to making something that a wearable, you know, a hat or a sweater. And you've had a hand in pretty much the whole way. Sometimes taking the fiber off the animal, and then the spinning is a supremely enjoyable part of that process.
Spinning is a simple act, drawing out fibers, a few at a time, and then twisting them together to form yarn. It's a process that predates written history.
I have put this wheel through its paces. I mean, it's a wonderful old wheel designed to last a lifetime, and I think it has done that and more already. This is probably 100 years old, and yes, it does kind of harken back to an earlier lifestyle.
Like Little's spinning wheel, the canoes stored outside David Paul's workshop are proof of another lifestyle too. One he led before his wife asked him for a favor.
One day I'm coming back from Burlington, I went by the canoe place down in Stowe, and I thought, that's what you used to like to do. And so I did some research that weekend and decided I'm going to restore old antique canoes. And I actually went to Maine, took classes, built a few, restored a few, got into it. But then my wife and her friends one day decided, since I was out here in the shop behind my own business and they were up spinning in the living room, that they should come down here and tell me that I needed to fix old wheels for them. And that was really how it all started.
Spinning wheels are believed to have been invented in the Middle East during the 1st century AD. 13 centuries later, Leonardo da Vinci invents a device that's able to collect the fiber as it's being twisted. And the rest, as they say, is history.
To many people, the spinning wheel looks like a complicated thing. And the reality is they're not. They're basically a very simple little machine. And the same was true for canoes. When I finally learned how to bend a rib for a canoe, some of the mystery went away because it really wasn't that hard to do. But before, looking at a beautiful canoe with all the curved wood and all the stuff, it was like, whoa, how is that possible to do that kind of thing? And the same thing is true with the wheels. Da Vinci had it.
After a few years of repairing and restoring old spinning wheels, Paul received another challenge from his wife and her friends.
They had this idea that I should make them a wheel that was portable. And I took their suggestions, and for about, I think it was a period of 2 years, I kind of let it slide. But finally, in the winter of 2005, they said to me, "Where is this wheel you're making for us?" And I went up in the attic and pulled down some proto stuff that I'd played with and started fiddling. And for the next few months, went to every one of their meetings, took what I had, they told me how nice it was, and then went on to how it could be made better and what I should do, from rounding corners to making it lighter to making it smaller to do they gave me. And someday I think I'm going to sit down and write this whole list of all the requirements this wheel had. And by the spring of 2005, we had a small portable wheel.
David, this doesn't look like a spinning wheel.
It's not our traditional way we think of a spinning wheel. Someone sitting at something with a large spoked wheel and a flyer at one end. But like all spinning wheels, it still has a wheel. It still has the flyer bobbin mechanism. Unlike most spinning wheels that are out there, this one doesn't have a drive band per se, but it still uses the drive wheel, as you can see here, to rub against this mechanism. The flyer and the bobbin go at different speeds because we put a little band around the bobbin, and that acts as a little bit of a brake, so it slows the bobbin down. The bobbin wants to keep going with the flyer, so that way we get the difference in speed, and the spinning wheel works just like any spinning wheel will. It's all about just getting this thing to work. I've decided to put it on a very small airline carry-on compatible, in fact, because that's what they wanted. Under 10 pounds. They wanted everything on it. They wanted oil so they could lube various points when they need to. They wanted the orifice hook, which is how you basically can thread with it. They wanted spare bobbins. When they got somewhere, if they filled one, they wanted other ones with them. The ladies really had all the ideas of what they wanted. It was just up to me to try to figure out how to make it all work and go in one pattern. This is a treadle. That's my foot, by the way, right down to funny little toes. And I said, I've got to put a handle in it. And I just took my hand and I laid it down. I said, I'm going to make it like a lot of suitcases have, with the little bumps in it so it feels good in your fingers. And so I put my hand down on a board here on the shop, went up and over the bumps, and that was the bumps. And I got down around here and I said, well, I don't know how far I'm going to go with this, but I ended up cutting it out with the thumb anyways, just for the fun of it. If I hadn't used this hand, the wheel would have been much different because I have one thumb shorter than the other. And just coincidentally, that night, used the short thumb instead of the long. If I'd used the long, it would have gone out too far and this would have bumped. So, coincidences.
Amazing.
That all kind of worked out.
Absolutely amazing. Another coincidence occurred when Paul presented his first wheel to the women in his wife's spinning circle.
One of the ladies was a big blogger, and she had blogged this from day one and finally blogged. Well, here's the picture of it. And that week, after she did that, I had 2 calls, one from Syracuse, Utah, and one from somewhere in California, wanting to know how much the deposit was for one of these wheels. And when someone called me from Germany, and I said, well, how in the world? They said, well, I was reading this blog. Began to realize very soon that this blogging has become, or could become, a very strong marketing tool at a zero expense on the marketing side of the company, because people were doing it on their own.
Since those initial calls, more and more blogs, forums, and web videos have all spun out from Paul's wheel.
This whole cyber community has been a major contributor, really, to the word getting out about this wheel. We're in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, and this wheel now is on 6 continents. The only continent I haven't been able to tap into is Antarctica. But I'm going to find somebody down there who wants to spin.
Somewhere Paul's wheel can't go is a place that many people, especially children, know well: the land of fairy tales.
It's one of the favorite questions. And where's the part that Sleeping Beauty pricked her finger on that put her to sleep?
She shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die. Oh, no.
Older style wheels, which are called great wheels or walking wheels, these wheels didn't use traditional flyer mechanism. They used a single piece of steel coming out to a point on which the thread would be wound. And that little point, or quill, is the Sleeping Beauty instrument of destruction.
Touch the spindle. Touch it, I say.
For all his talents and knowledge about spinning wheels, there is one true thing that Paul can't do.
We've gotten to that point where I have to admit something. That I don't spin. I don't weave. My wife just can't believe that I'll bring a wheel into the house an old wheel, for example, that I've just repaired, fixed, tweaked, tuned, and I'll bring it in, I'll say, try it, and she tries it, and it's set perfectly, it works just right. She can't believe that someone who can't spin can do that. From what I see of spinners, it's habit forming, and it takes your time, and if I learned to spin, I would never have time to make wheels again. I'd be inside, so no. Someday, maybe.
Until then, the spinning wheel will still be going round.
Spinning wheel, got to go round.
For more information about David Paul and his spinning wheels, you can check his website. It's themerlintree.com. You can also call David at 802-754-6433. That's 754-6433. And that's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.